The early morning mist clung tightly to the contours of Eldenra, a secluded town shrouded in evergreen silence in the Pacific Northwest. Through the gauzy fog, the dark and daunting silhouette of Elden Ridge National Preserve stood like a sleeping beast, its rugged terrain of jagged cliffs, dense forests, and shadowed valleys long whispered about in town lore. Over the years, it had devoured secrets, some never uncovered, and others that returned in peace. Lena rose, stirred at the shrill ring of her phone slicing through the stillness of dawn. Her eyes, puffy from yet another restless night, flickered toward the digital clock, 6:17 a.m. Beyond her window, the first hesitant rays of sunlight painted the fog in ghostly shades of silver. As she reached for the phone, a surge of dread passed through her. The screen displayed a name she hadn't seen this early in years. Detective Roy Beckett. Her heart skipped, then thudded heavily in her chest. 6 years. It had been 6 relentless years since the day her world collapsed, since the skies swallowed her husband, Daniel, and their 11-year-old daughter, Mira, during what was deemed a tragic hot air balloon accident. Yet no wreckage, no remains, just absence. The kind of absence that left her living in limbo, each day a balancing act between despair and denial. "Hello?" she answered, voice raspy with sleep, but her mind fully alert now. "Mrs. Rowe." Beckett's voice was calm but edged with urgency. "I'm sorry to call so early. We have a development. An important one." Lena sat up so fast the bed creaked beneath her. She clutched the phone like a lifeline. "What kind of development?" "A hiker discovered something last night, deep in Elden Ridge. We believe it's the balloon, the one your husband and daughter were in." The world tilted. Her breath caught mid-chest, refused to move. After 6 years of silence, of fruitless searches and false hopes, of grieving without closure. "Where?" she managed to ask, her voice barely audible. "It's remote. I can send you the coordinates. We need you to come down to the scene as soon as possible. Can you do that?" "Yes," Lena whispered, barely recognizing her own voice. Her hands trembled as she scribbled down the information. As she ended the call, the phone rang again. Grant. Miles Grant was more than just Daniel's business partner. He'd been Daniel's childhood confidant and her family's steady shoulder through grief. Since the accident, Grant had helped Lena navigate the void left behind, not just legally but emotionally. "I just spoke with Roy," he said, skipping pleasantries. His voice, usually confident, carried a weight she hadn't heard before. "I'm getting ready to leave," Lena said. "Let me drive you. Fog's thick, roads are slicked. I'm heading there anyway." Lena nodded, her voice too fragile to argue. Grant had often been there when she needed grounding. Today would be no different. She dressed quickly, jeans, a sweater, hiking boots, and downed a lukewarm coffee just as his silver SUV pulled into the driveway. The drive to the preserve was short but laced with tension. Grant, typically a conversationalist, was silent. His knuckles were pale on the steering wheel, his jaw tight. "What do you think they found?" she asked, her voice tentative. "I don't know," he said, eyes fixed on the road. "But whatever it is, we'll face it, together." Detective Beckett met them at the ranger station, his expression unreadable. Without delay, they set off on foot. The trail was unforgiving. Twisted roots, uneven earth, silence broken only by breath and the crunch of leaves. Lena's mind buzzed with what-ifs. Every snapped twig beneath her boots felt like stepping closer to an old wound reopening. "How much farther?" she asked, breath catching in her throat. "Almost there," Beckett replied. "It was hidden well off any marked paths. That's why no one found it, until now." And then they arrived. A wide area was roped off with bright yellow police tape. At its heart yawned a massive crater, 15 feet across and several feet deep. Inside lay the remains of a hot air balloon, a skeleton of colorful fabric bleached by years, A wicker basket collapsed like a broken cradle and metal propane tanks strewn haphazardly. The site felt sacred, somber, a burial of dreams. Police and forensic techs moved slowly, reverently. Cameras clicked, samples were collected. Time seemed to stall. Beckett led them to a tall man with a lean build, dressed in worn hiking gear. Beside him, a German shepherd sat alert. "This is Caleb Marsh. He found the site." "I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am," Caleb said, his voice kind. Lena nodded, unable to speak. "We were hiking off-trail," Caleb explained. "My dog Ranger, he's retired K9, started digging like crazy. He's trained to detect human remains. I knew something was wrong. I called it in." Beckett continued. "When we excavated, we found the balloon buried under a tarp. Vegetation had regrown, but it's young compared to the rest of the forest. Someone hid it. Intentionally." Lena approached the edge of the pit, heart in her throat. Her eyes locked onto the faded fabric. "That's it," she whispered. "I know that pattern. Daniel designed it himself." Reef wrapped its cold fingers around her chest again, but this time it wasn't just sorrow. It was something else. The faint flicker of truth, of secrets on the verge of revelation. Lena took a step closer to the remains of the balloon, her eyes narrowing on the faded colors etched into the fabric. Her voice, low and trembling, broke the silence. "Daniel and I designed it together," she said, her breath catching. "Those streaks of yellow and orange with black lining, that's ours. That's our balloon." Her gaze shifted to Detective Beckett, an expression of raw desperation etched across her face. Hope and dread twisted together inside her like a storm. Did you find any bodies?" she asked, bracing herself. The detective shook his head solemnly. "We excavated the entire site. No human remains were recovered. What Ranger picked up on was the residual propane gas from the canisters. They were buried along with the balloon." Lena instinctively wrapped her arms around herself, her mind trying to process the implications. This wasn't a crash that left the wreckage scattered by nature. Someone had taken the time to hide it, deliberately. "So it wasn't just a tragic accident?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. "We can't confirm that yet," Beckett replied carefully. "Our initial findings do align with sudden and extreme weather patterns that were reported that day. That alone could explain a crash, but what we've uncovered here, the burial, the concealed wreckage, it points to someone attempting to cover something up." A sudden flare of hope, sharp and painful, surged in Lena's chest. "Then Daniel and Mira? They could still be alive?" The detective didn't answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his tone was neutral. "We're considering all possibilities." Lena bit her lip, forcing down the sob rising in her throat. She looked once more at the deflated balloon that had carried her family into silence. Around her, investigators continued their work, their quiet diligence grounding the chaos in her heart. Grant stood a few feet away, quiet since their arrival. He approached the pit, his expression unreadable. His face looked pale, almost strained. He took out his phone, lifted it, and began taking photographs. But not of the whole scene. Lena noticed him zoom in on a specific detail, a small metal plate bolted to the basket. "What are you doing?" she asked, suspicion threading into her voice before she could stop it. "Inventory," he said calmly. "These balloons are expensive. We need to document everything for insurance." Lena nodded, the explanation logical. Grant had always been the practical one, managing the numbers and logistics, while Daniel handled charm and clients. He was methodical, focused. Still, a part of her couldn't help but wonder why his first instinct was documentation and not devastation. Their moment was interrupted by a forensic technician waving them over. "We found traces of blood on the wicker," he said, pointing with a gloved hand. "Also, damage inconsistent with just a fall." Lena's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" These tears in the fabric, these scratches and marks, they looked like signs of struggle, like someone was fighting inside. Lena felt her stomach twist. Her mind raced with haunting possibilities. Did someone attack Daniel mid-flight? Did Mira panic in the chaos of a crash and Daniel tried to calm her? Or was something even darker at play? "We'll analyze everything here thoroughly," Beckett assured her. "You don't have to stay. We'll keep you informed." He turned to Grant. "We'll need to arrange a meeting with your team at Skyreach. There's a lot to review." "Absolutely," Grant said, slipping his phone into his pocket. "Just say when." Lena gave the wreckage one final glance. The balloon that had once lifted her family into the sky now lay exposed, lifeless. She turned, her heart heavy with questions. With Beckett's approval, Lena and Grant began the hike back through the thinning fog. Caleb and his dog had already left. The woods remained quiet, as if holding their breath. At the SUV, Grant opened the passenger door for her. "Let me take you home," he said softly. The drive was short, but Lena's mind stayed behind at the excavation site. Every detail replayed in her head on a loop. Grant reached over and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. "Don't worry too much," he said. "The truth is coming. The police will find it." Lena forced a smile but couldn't speak. When they pulled into her driveway, she stared at the house for a moment, her sanctuary, her prison of memories. "Mind if I come in?" Grant asked. "I need to finish some forms for the insurance. I could use your table and maybe make you breakfast while I'm at it." "Of course," she replied. Grant had always been welcome in their home, even in Daniel's absence. He was practically family. He made himself at home in the kitchen, calling out, "Go ahead and freshen up. I'll have food ready when you come back down." Lena nodded and climbed the stairs, her legs suddenly heavy. She reached her bathroom, closed the door, and allowed herself to collapse against the sink. Her reflection stared back, hollow-eyed and pale. Sobs came slowly, then all at once. 6 years of torment, 6 years of pretending, and now this discovery had cracked the dam. After minutes that felt eternal, she washed her face and steadied her breath. She grabbed her phone and texted her best friend Nona. Billy found the balloon. It was buried, deliberately. Nona's reply came fast. "Oh my God, are you okay? What else did they find?" Lena explained as best she could. Nona, an engineer by trade, always had a way of analyzing chaos. If the gas was still detectable, someone likely tampered with the burner valve, Nona wrote. That wasn't an accident. Someone wanted it to crash. The words sent a chill down Lena's spine. Someone wanted it to crash. Who could do something like that? Lena typed. Anyone with access. Usually those checks are strict. Whoever signed off that day should be looked at closely. Lena realized how little she knew about the inner workings of Daniel's company. He'd kept business separate from home life. But maybe it was time to dive in. "Thank you," she texted back. Nona replied. "You're one of the strongest people I know, one step at a time. I'm here. Always." Nona replied. Nona retired to her home to rest. Nisha asked, "How are you?" Nona replied. Nona rested with Maria Samara in Rome, where the political and social and economic. The exchange with Nona had grounded her. In the wake of the chaos and emotional turmoil, Lena felt a sense of clarity return. Her fingers, once trembling, now moved with purpose as she prepared for the day. After a quick shower and change into fresh clothes, she descended the stairs, her mind still buzzing with questions. The house was eerily quiet. The scent of warm toast and coffee greeted her as she entered the kitchen, but Grant was nowhere to be seen. His laptop sat open on the dining table next to a simple breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, sliced fruit, and a steaming pot of coffee. Outside the window, Lena spotted Grant on the porch, pacing while talking animatedly into his phone. She poured herself a cup and sat down, grateful for the food and moment of calm. As she ate, the quiet was interrupted by a series of chimes from Grant's laptop. Notifications popped up one after another. At first, she tried to ignore them, but her eyes caught snippets of the chat messages flashing on screen. It's like a physical prompt. What a pretty lady. You're so lucky, man. She's perfect. You deserve her. Lena frowned. Her initial assumption was that these were comments on a photo of Grant and his wife, Melissa. But today, why would he be sharing anything personal when they'd just unearthed the wreckage of her family's balloon? Still, she pushed the thought aside. It wasn't her business. Grant stepped back inside, slipping his phone into his pocket. "Ah, there you are," he said, flashing a smile. "All freshened up." "Thanks for making breakfast," Lena replied, gesturing toward the plate. "My pleasure," he said, quickly closing the laptop and gathering his things. "That was head office on the line. I need to handle some insurance matters." "You should take the day to rest." Lena set down her cup. "Actually, I'd like to come with you to headquarters. It's been a while. I need to understand more about Daniel's work, especially after this morning." Something flickered in Grant's eyes. Surprise, perhaps even hesitation, but it was gone before she could be sure. "That's not necessary. There's really nothing going on at HQ. You'd be bored." "I insist," she said firmly. "Daniel used to take me there every year. It helped me feel connected to what he loved. I need that now." He paused, then nodded. "All right, if you're sure. I'll take you there, but I still have to leave afterward for my meeting." Soon they were on the road, driving through a quiet stretch toward the Skyreach Balloons headquarters. Lena glanced sideways at Grant. His jaw was tight, his fingers drumming anxiously on the steering wheel. A nagging feeling began to rise inside her. A flicker of doubt she didn't want to acknowledge. The headquarters building was modern and understated, with wide windows overlooking a private launch field. A few employee cars dotted the lot. Inside, the space was cool and quiet. Grant introduced her to Mia, his assistant, a sharp-eyed young woman with a composed demeanor. "Mia, this is Lena Rowe, Daniel's wife," Grant said. "She'd like a tour." "Of course, Mr. Miles," Mia said with a polite nod. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Rowe." Grant disappeared down the hall, leaving Lena with Mia. The assistant led her through departments with brisk professional efficiency. In the hallway, Lena paused before a photo of Daniel, smiling beside a balloon. "Everyone here knew your husband," Mia said softly. "His loss affected all of us." The words opened a floodgate. "They found the balloon this morning," Lena whispered. "Buried in the woods. It wasn't an accident." Mia's expression faltered. I hadn't heard," she stammered. Her eyes darted away. Something in her shifted. As the tour continued, Mia grew increasingly distracted. Her answers became clipped, her voice uncertain. When they reached the maintenance bay, Mia gestured vaguely at the tools and equipment. "This is where we perform inspections. Every balloon is checked before and after each flight." Lena hesitated. "Do you think someone could have tampered with the burner valve? Had something against Daniel?" Mia froze. Everyone loved Daniel. And Mira? "I can't imagine anyone doing something like that." "Why would you say that?" Lena asked. "I don't know," Mia replied. Her tone was flat. Then, suddenly, she added, "Let me take you to the client lounge. You can wait there." "Actually, I want to see Daniel's office." Panic flickered in Mia's eyes. "It's locked. Only Mr. Miles has the key. He's not in right now." Before Lena could press further, Mia's phone buzzed. Her eyes scanned the screen, tension growing. "I'm sorry, I have to step away. Please wait in the lounge. I'll return shortly." Lena followed her through a hallway until they reached a cozy lounge. As Mia disappeared, already on the phone again, Lena caught fragments. Police, tomorrow, client, safety. Sitting alone, Lena felt a creeping sense of unease. Beckett hadn't mentioned any timeline for police involvement. Why would Skyreach be preparing for their arrival? She considered calling the detective but reasoned he was still tied up at the site. Restless, she stood and left the lounge, drawn toward the area Daniel had once proudly shown her. As she passed the maintenance bay, something caught her eye. A door stood slightly ajar. Grant's office? Peeking inside, she expected to find it empty. But there, frantically stuffing papers into folders, was Mia. The same woman who had just told her the office was locked. Lena stepped inside, knocking gently. Mia? The young woman jumped, spinning to face her, arms full of documents. Her face turned pale. The pieces had only just begun to fall into place, but Lena felt something deep in her gut. The truth, hidden for years, was beginning to claw its way to the surface. Mia clutched the stack of papers tightly against her chest, her eyes wide, startled. "Mrs. Rowe? I was just about to come find you," she said, her voice unnaturally high. "What are you doing in here?" Lena stepped fully into the office, her gaze flicking to the papers. "Mr. Miles called," Mia explained quickly. "He said he forgot an important document, something for the insurance, asked me to scan it and send it over." As she spoke, Lena noticed something odd among the papers. A handwritten logbook peeked out, its cover marked Fuel Reports. Nearby, on the floor, sat a cardboard box labeled Archive, but someone had scrawled Discard across it in bold black marker. Her eyes locked on a folder at the top. Maintenance Log, April 2017, the exact month her husband and daughter vanished. "Why do you still have these records?" Lena asked, her voice firmer now. "Didn't the police request all maintenance logs when they opened the case years ago?" Mia paled visibly. "These are just scanned duplicates," she said, avoiding eye contact. "The originals were sent to the police." "I really need to finish this task, Mrs. Rowe. If you'll excuse me." Lena stepped aside, watching Mia all but flee down the corridor, clutching the documents as though they might vanish if she loosened her grip. A storm of doubt brewed in Lena's chest. Something at Skyreach didn't add up. Driven by a mix of intuition and unease, she continued wandering the building, retracing the spaces Daniel had once proudly shown her. As she neared the design wing, she passed a corridor lined with vibrant photos of balloons in flight. Around the corner, hushed voices stopped her. "The client's schedule's been moved. He's coming today." "Already?" a second voice replied, troubled. "Grant wants everything settled before the police come tomorrow. So, focus on the client and get rid of those boxes." The men fell silent when they saw her. Their polite nods couldn't mask their tense expressions. Moments later, her phone rang. "Detective Beckett." "Mrs. Rowe," he said gravely. "We found additional evidence. Restraints inside the basket, a weapon, and definite signs of tampering. Both the burner valve and the deflation port were sabotaged. This was no accident." Lena felt her breath catch. "We also uncovered bone fragments buried deeper beneath the site," the detective continued. "We suspect someone within the company is involved. We'll be questioning staff tomorrow. Where are you now?" "I'm at Skyreach's headquarters. Grant's assistant gave me a tour. He said he had insurance matters to handle." "Grant Miles is currently our primary person of interest," Beckett said. "He and someone from the maintenance bay are under close scrutiny. You need to come to the station immediately." Lena's blood turned cold. "Grant? But he was like family." "Listen carefully," the detective said sharply. "Leave the premises. Do not confront Grant. Officers are en route." "Yes," Lena whispered, heart thudding. She turned to go when she saw him through the front window. Grant stood by a company buggy with 3 men. 2 wore black suits and sunglasses. One was the same employee she'd overheard earlier. Grant handed them an envelope. They checked inside. Cash. Then got into a Jeep and drove off. Lena ducked away from the window, pulse racing. That wasn't a business deal, that was something else, something illegal. Grant returned inside, his face drawn and tense. Lena crept toward another window. Outside, at the loading dock, a small box truck sat parked. Staff loaded boxes identical to the one labeled discard in his office. The truth struck her like lightning. They were destroying evidence. She should have left, called Beckett, waited for backup. But something primal stopped her. A mother's instinct. What if Mira was still out there? She bolted across the parking lot, weaving past vehicles until she found an unlocked pickup. Heart pounding, she climbed in. The keys sat in the glove box. "I'm sorry, Detective," she whispered, starting the engine. "But I have to know." She tailed the box truck, keeping a careful distance. 20 miles out of town, it turned down a gravel road into dense woods. It led to an abandoned farmstead, a crumbling barn, a decaying house, outbuildings eaten by time. Lena parked off the main road, hidden by brush. She crouched among trees, heart racing, and sent a text to Beckett. Followed truck from Sky reached a farm. Suspicious men unloading boxes, hiding nearby, GPS attached. The reply came swiftly. "Leave immediately. Police en route. This is dangerous." But she froze. Movement. The men from earlier emerged from the barn, dragging a blindfolded young woman, her wrists bound. Time vanished. Lena's breath hitched. Her vision blurred. She knew those features. Despite the years, despite the grime and pain. It was Mira. Her daughter was alive. Tears welled in her eyes. With trembling hands, she texted Beckett again. "My daughter is here, alive. They're moving her. 4 men total. Please hurry." He watched, helpless, as Mira was shoved into the truck. Boxes continued to be loaded. She wanted to scream, to charge in. But she couldn't. She would be outnumbered, overpowered. Her only hope now was that Beckett and his team would arrive in time. The final box was loaded. The rear doors slammed shut. The engine roared to life. Lena gripped her phone tighter and prayed. For justice. For her daughter. For time not to run out. As the last of the boxes were being loaded, a familiar silver SUV came barreling up the driveway, its tires spitting gravel. It was Grant. He slammed the vehicle into park and jumped out, rage twisting his face into something unrecognizable. "Lena!" he roared, his voice echoing across the property. "I know you're here. Come out! Now!" The men near the truck and Jeep halted, visibly startled by Grant's sudden appearance. One of the suited men stepped forward, irritation etched across his face. "What the hell are you doing here? Who are you looking for?" "A woman," Grant snapped. "Lena Rowe. She was at headquarters earlier, then disappeared. Security footage showed her driving off in one of our pickups. GPS cut off near this location. Her truck is up on the access road. She's here, watching us. Find her. Now." The suited men exchanged tense glances. "We don't have time for this," one of them muttered. "We're here for the girl, as arranged. Your drama isn't our concern." Grant ran a hand through his hair, his frustration mounting. "Fine. Take the girl. Johnson, Riley. Drive the Jeep and truck. The rest of you fan out and find her. She's close." Lena, hidden within the thicket, stayed perfectly still, breath shallow as the box truck carrying Mira rumbled to life. Her daughter, her child, being taken again. Desperation clawed at her as the truck and Jeep rolled out of the barn and toward the road. She longed to follow, to chase them, but Grant's men were already spreading through the brush, methodically searching. Keeping low, Lena began to inch away from her hiding place. Her knee cracked a twig beneath her. The sound, though small, felt like thunder. "Over there!" Grant shouted, much closer than she thought. "I heard something." "Whatever you're trying to do here, Lena," he called, his voice turning cruel. "It's useless. Mira isn't yours anymore. No one will ever find her. But if you come out now, maybe we can make a deal." He was getting closer. She could hear his boots crushing leaves, twigs snapping. She looked around and spotted another patch of dense brush about 20 feet away. If she could reach it, she might stand a chance. Through the trees, she caught sight of him. A pistol was in his hand. The man she once considered family now wore the face of a predator. "You're only making this worse," he growled. "We've been friends for years. Come on, Lena. Let's talk." She began crawling again, her heart pounding, but just as she moved, her foot rustled a dry patch of leaves. Grant's eyes snapped toward her. "There you are," he hissed. He raised the gun and motioned for his men. "She's here." Then, sirens. Distant but growing louder, piercing. Grant froze, his eyes widening. "Damn it," he snapped. "Back to the cars. Move before they get here." His men didn't hesitate. They scattered, racing toward their vehicles. Grant lingered, eyes scouring the underbrush one last time before he turned and sprinted to his SUV. Engines roared, tires spun, the vehicles vanished down the gravel driveway. Lena waited until the sound faded completely. Then, cautiously, she emerged. Her phone rang. "Mrs. Rowe, are you safe?" Detective Beckett's voice was urgent. "I'm okay. Grant and the others just left. They heard the sirens. Detective, they have Mira. She's alive. They took her in the box truck." "Stay put. We have units in pursuit. Which way did they go?" "East on the main road. Grant's in a silver SUV. Mira's in the box truck." "Help is on the way. Hold your position." But Lena couldn't. She had to know. She took off, running toward the road. Police cruisers blazed past her, sirens wailing, lights flashing. In the distance, she saw Grant's SUV blocked by police. More cars chased the box truck and jeep. She sprinted toward the roadblock. Officers, weapons drawn, ordered Grant and his men from the SUV. They emerged slowly, hands raised. When Grant saw her, fury twisted his face. He spat on the ground. "How could you?" she cried, voice raw with pain. "We trusted you. You were family." An officer stepped between them, but Grant's words rang out like a knife. "I hated all of you," he snarled. "The company should have been mine. Daniel didn't deserve a dime." He was shoved into the back of a cruiser, the door slammed shut. Detective Beckett approached. "We intercepted the truck. Your daughter is safe." Lena's knees gave out. "Take me to her, please." He guided her to his vehicle. As they drove, he filled her in. "We're searching the farm. Early signs suggest it was their base. Your daughter is with paramedics. They're checking her now." At the intercept site, the box truck was surrounded by officers. The men inside were in cuffs. And there, near an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket, was Mira. Not a child anymore, but a young woman shaped by survival. Her eyes met Lena's. "Mom," she said, her voice breaking. Lena ran to her. Their embrace was fierce, endless. They sobbed together, 6 years of pain and hope pouring out. "I missed you so much," Mira sobbed. "I thought I'd never see you again." "I never stopped searching," Lena whispered. "Never." They pulled apart briefly. Paramedics worked gently. Mira, her voice shaky, began to speak. "Dad and I were supposed to be gone 3 hours. The flight was perfect at first. Then something went wrong. He tried to fix it, but it was too late." She choked back tears. "We crashed. Dad shielded me. He was hurt. We thought we were lucky. We called for help, but the men who came, they weren't rescuers. Grant was with them." Lena clutched her daughter's hand. As if Dad didn't deserve the company, that he worked harder. Dad begged him to save me. Grant killed him, right there. While I watched, Mira broke down. They took me to the farm, locked me underground. I didn't know if I'd ever see sunlight again. Lena held her close, whispering, "You're safe now, and you're never going back." The long nightmare was ending, but for Lena and Mira, the journey of healing had just begun. Mira's voice was fragile but unwavering as she revealed the darkest parts of her captivity. "At first, it was just Grant," she whispered, her eyes downcast. "He used me for himself, for years. But recently, he started taking me to different places. I was always drugged. He let other men use me too." Her hands trembled in her lap as tears welled in her eyes. "He took pictures. I heard them talking about how much money a single photo could bring in, how their boss, Grant, was making a fortune." Lena's blood turned to ice. Her mind flashed back to that morning, to the laptop, to the pop-up messages filled with praise and lust. The nausea hit like a punch. He had uploaded those images from her home, after everything. She turned to Detective Beckett, the horror etched across her face. "I saw messages on Grant's laptop, comments, images. He might have uploaded something this morning." Beckett didn't hesitate. He grabbed his radio and issued a command. "Search Miles's laptop for any explicit content, online, local, anything marked private collection." Minutes later, an update came back. The techs had found it. Explicit photos distributed through a hidden online channel. Private collection, VIP. The paramedics approached and informed them Mira needed to be transported to the hospital for full evaluation. "I'm going with her," Lena said immediately, climbing into the ambulance and taking her daughter's hand in her own. As the doors shut and the vehicle sped away, she held on tighter than she ever had before. At Eldon Murray General, the ER was a whirlwind of activity. Mira was whisked away by doctors and nurses who moved with practiced urgency. Lena was asked to wait outside while they performed a comprehensive exam. Exhaustion crashed down on her like a wave. She collapsed into a molded plastic chair, pulled out her phone, and called Nona. "Lena? What's happening?" Lena could barely get the words out. "They found her. Nona, she's alive. Mira's alive." There was a pause, then a breathless gasp. "How? Where?" Lena recounted everything, the discovery, the pursuit, the abandoned farm, the reunion, and then the betrayal. "You were right," she said. "It was Grant. He sabotaged the balloon. He killed Daniel. And what he did to Mira." Nona was silent for a moment, then asked through clenched teeth, "What about the photos? That online ring you mentioned?" "The police are dismantling it as we speak. They're moving fast." After promising to update Nona, Lena hung up and leaned her head against the wall, sleep overtaking her without warning. A gentle hand woke her. A doctor stood before her, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Rowe, I'm Dr. Patel. I've been examining your daughter." Lena shot up. "Is she okay?" Dr. Patel's expression was serious but kind. "Physically, she's malnourished and dehydrated. We're treating both. There's an infection likely from the abuse. We've started her on antibiotics." He hesitated. "The psychological trauma is significant. We've called a specialist who works with survivors of long-term abuse. She'll need time, therapy, and support." Lena's throat tightened. "Can I see her?" "Yes, but she's sedated. She needs rest." Just as Lena was about to go, Detective Beckett appeared. "Mrs. Rowe, may I have a word first?" She nodded reluctantly and followed him into a consultation room. He laid a folder on the table. "I didn't want to tell you earlier, but the DNA tests on the bone fragments have been completed. They confirm what Mira told us. The remains are Daniel's." Even though she already knew, Hearing it officially shattered something inside her. She covered her face and wept. Daniel was gone, murdered by the man he called his best friend. Beckett gave her time, then continued, "We've uncovered more. Grant orchestrated the crash. He tracked the weather. He paid off employees to tamper with the balloon. He disabled the GPS, and he made sure the crash occurred in a part of the forest civilians can't access. He pushed photographs across the table, damaged balloon parts, falsified logs, employee statements. He manipulated everything," the detective said. "We spent 6 years searching the wrong area because the flight logs were altered." Lena shook her head. Daniel gave him everything. The company, his trust. All for what? Greed? Recognition? Yes. According to employees, Grant resented Daniel being the face of the company. He wanted more. But to do that to Mira. Beckett's jaw tightened. The trafficking angle is ongoing. From what we know, he kept her for himself at first, then expanded into distributing her photos through that online ring, a ring we've been tracking internationally. Lena remembered the hushed voices at Skyreach, the client who had been moved up a day. Feeling too scared to tie up loose ends, Beckett confirmed. When we found the balloon, he accelerated everything. They discussed the charges: murder, trafficking, child exploitation, tampering with evidence, and arrangements for Daniel's proper burial. Finally, Beckett walked her back to Mira's room. "You'll need statements soon, but for now, just be with her." Outside the door, Lena paused. "Thank you for not giving up. That's our job," he said gently. "I'm just sorry it took so long." Inside, Mira lay in bed, IVs attached. She looked fragile, lost in a dreamless sleep. But at the sound of Lena's footsteps, her eyes fluttered open. "Mom," she whispered. Lena was there in a second, sitting beside her. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere." Tears filled Mira's eyes. "Is it really over? Am I really free?" "Yes," Lena whispered, brushing her hair back. "You're safe. Grant and the others can never hurt you again. I thought you gave up. I thought maybe you moved on." "Never," Lena said fiercely. "Every day I thought of you, wondered if you were out there. I never stopped." They held each other, mother and daughter. After 6 years, they were whole again. There would be trials, therapy, nightmares. The pain wouldn't disappear overnight, but they had each other now, and that was the start of everything. In the stillness of the hospital room, with sunlight pouring through the blinds, Mira whispered, "Together. That's all I ever wanted." "Then together," Lena said, holding her tight, "is where we'll begin."